Nigel Mansell has carried the car at 43 laps. He'll go 44 before he makes his stop. And Mario Andretti carried at 43. Jack, here comes Nigel.
Well, Paul, interesting to note that for Nigel Mansell, he has requested no changes on his car during this pit stop. He has requested, though, a change for the drink bottle. It seems that the buffeting he's been undergoing has given him a severe headache. So his PR man, Mike Knight, has added several aspirin to the bottle, and they are going to take as much fluid on board as they possibly can. They made a very quick stop. Now it's being held back by taking on a full load of fuel, 16.9 seconds, a little bit slower than his teammate Mario.
Yeah, one of the things, Paul and Jack, that really gets to a driver that causes the headaches is your joints. All your joints in your neck always get pushed down really hard. Besides going to the right from the G's, pushed down, and that gives the guys a headache.
Boiselle trying to get out of the pits, but they had to get a little extra assistance at that rear wing to push him and get him going.
He's having trouble with that first gear. There's no question about it. We're going to have to look for that in the future.
It's
I wonder
a clutch.
if it's even a first gear there or a clutch.
Yeah.
It's a clutch problem. But what they're doing, guys, is they're pushing and he's chunking it into first gear after they get it moving. Because they have what we call dog rings in those transmissions. They can do that.
Boiselle comes back up to speed after his stop, but that cost him a great deal. He's now fourth in the order, and he should drop even further down. Jack Arute, do you have an update on Raul?
Well, Paul, remember in that last pit stop when we talked to Dick Simon, he said they were having trouble getting the car into a neutral gear.
Right.
That's generally the first indication that you've got a clutch problem. As he came down to the open end towards turn number 1, you could see that he was definitely not in the throttle the way he should be, although you could hear the engine really coming up to song. The wheels weren't turning. It looks as if a clutch is going to befall Raul Boiselle. Let's check in with Gary Gerald.
Jack, we watch as Ari Lyondike glides in and hits his mark perfectly. He had moved up to second in this rotation of pit stops. Of course, now he'll lose some ground. Ari, who's been very fast on the super speedways, you can see a dramatic change. They cranked about a turn or a turn and a half up here in the front wing. Now he's off the jack in 14.7, I believe I heard.
And Garrett, you see he declined his drink bottle there. Ari Lyondike is extremely fit, and evidently he is not suffering from these conditions.
Now they took wing out of the left front, as Gary alluded to, and that means that his front end was a little too tight. The rear end was a little bit loose. So Ari's chasing the track just like the other guys are.
Ari Lyondike, as he came out of the pits, and Raul Boiselle right there to make the move. They are a battle for position as Boiselle picks up third place.
And let's remember with Boiselle now, he probably doesn't have the hydraulic part of his clutch working. The clutch itself is good, Sam and Paul. What happens is it's hydraulic that works the clutch release bearing. The hydraulic is back there where there's a tremendous amount of heat in the bell housing, and that's what often gives way.
Nigel Mansell, the leader of the race, just cruises around Ari Lyondike. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Paul, we talk about the wear and tear, the 500 miles on the bumps at Michigan. It's tough on the driver, equally tough on the equipment. One of the problems that's evolved this weekend pertains to this particular piece. This is Ari Lyondike's backup car. This is the hat on the bell housing, and there's so much jostling and traction back here in these parts of the suspension members that there's been a failure on a couple of cars. So many of the cars on the Lola chassis have beefed up this particular area for this race today. And it was through the hard work of the Gallus team last night that they updated a special fitting here to give this a little more strength so that it doesn't get that twisting and torsion action, that it would be able to withstand 500 miles. The last thing you want is one of these things to break when you're at these dramatic speeds, because it's going to put you in the wall and you're going to hurt big time.
Now you see that big dot on the right. You see the little bolts there. They put a brace right there down to the straight bolt, the big one that runs right down in the transmission, and that's what's going to protect it. Unfortunately, the guys didn't know about this until yesterday or last night when a bunch of them started breaking, Paul.
And of course the point is that there was no way to test those quick fixes either. So, you know, there's a lot of doubt in a driver's mind when he's going around here with this stuff happening.
Well, Adrian Fernandez had one break yesterday. He was very fortunate, Sam, that they came in just before it let go all the way.
Yep.
Further update on Raul Boiselle from Jack.
Well, Paul, we checked, and what the problem is just like the pit stop before, he cannot get it into gear. So what they're going to have to do in the future for pit stops, and there's a long way to go in this race, is they're going to have to push him off in second gear. That will make it a very lengthy time on pit road. They got to hope for some yellows.
A lot of serious conversations down in the Dick Simon pits. Raul Boycel's pit in particular, as no doubt they talk about that problem, Jack.
Paul, that's exactly what they're doing. They're trying to discuss what way to remedy the problem in the next pit stop. Because when you don't have the low gear necessary, then they have to try and determine what can they do as a crew.
Worst case scenario.
And gearbox problems on a super speedway, pit stops become critical and costly.
And of course, Jack, the worst case scenario is they'll stall it. Look at
Wow, that's right in the middle of traffic. Puts the race car anywhere he wants. Only 2 cars on the leader lap. Nigel Mansell and his teammate Mario Andretti. Everybody else is at least a lap back. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
The Michigan 500 is brought to you by Toyota and their full line of quality cars and trucks. Toyota, I love what you do for me. By AC Delco Automotive Parts. AC Delco, it's like buying time. And by Armor All. There is a fountain of youth, and we own the patent.
Tomorrow night, Forrest Sawyer hosts the ABC News Magazine Day 1. Then Heather Locklear and Suzanne Summers are out there looking for love in all the right places. It's rich men and single women on ABC's Monday Night Movie tomorrow night. We're at the Michigan 500, where right now Al Unser Jr. and Raul Boycel are running with one another on the race course. It is not a battle for position. There's actually 2 laps distance separating the 3rd place Boycel from Al Unser Jr., who runs in 8th place right now. But they have been running approximately the same speed, and now little Al kicks it a little bit harder and gets around Boycel. Al Unser Jr.'s normal teammate would be Danny Sullivan and would normally be running here, but Sullivan's car, which was practiced with by Adrian Fernandez, was withdrawn. Sullivan had the flu, had it so severe that they had IV fluids, intravenous fluids flowing on him on Friday just to get some of his body fluids back.
Now here's little Al again later in the race with a telemetry at the bottom of the screen, 100% down the front straightaway. Let's watch what he does in the turns. 51%, 42. Now that's better, Paul, than before. He was getting down to 24 and 30% on the throttle before. That's the throttle opening. His RPM is up a little bit, so he's gotten the car handling better. He's running harder now than he did earlier on.
All right, let's just sit right here with Al Unser Jr. as he closes on another car and watch and listen.
And just realize for a split second that Danny Sullivan is probably watching this from his home in Aspen and thinking about what it would be like to be in this race.
Now we'll listen.
It's really only changing about 1,000 RPM, so we're not hearing a lot. But we can certainly, from the onboard camera, see his groove and how he's reacting to it. The throttle percentage really tells us how much horsepower he's putting out.
And Bobby, the interesting thing is he's able to hold it at 100% throttle longer now than when we rode with him earlier in the race. So his handling has definitely improved.
We'll continue to listen. Every now and then you hear the song of Goodyear coming through there, too, as the tires kind of squeal on the pavement as he turns into the corner. Possibility for a team expansion, by the way. Gary Gerald has an update.
Well, Paul Newman, of course, an Academy Award-winning actor, has been involved in IndyCar racing for many years, but now there's another Academy Award winner that comes on the scene. This is Gene Hackman, who was announced today is going to be an investor in the Rick Gallis racing team. And Gene, you're sitting here now on pit wall watching your new partners hard at work. Tell us about the feelings and what's brought you into a very active role in IndyCar racing.
Well, it's really exciting. I'm really going to be a spectator, kind of a fan for quite a while until I understand exactly what's going on. But so far it's been wonderful. We're not having very much luck today, but we hope that changes.
Are you going to become a hands-on partner in the future?
Well, eventually I'd like to sit up here and maybe handle one of the drivers if we run 3 drivers next year.
And of course, you've been in the cockpit many times in different types of racing yourself. Will you continue that part of your racing career?
I don't think so. I think I'm getting too old for that. You can see this gray beard.
I understand that's for the latest movie property, Geronimo and Wyatt Earp. Of course, we've been enjoying you in the firm. Welcome to IndyCar racing.
Thanks a lot.
Paul?
Of course, he is, Sam Posey. Pretty good race driver in his own right.